Hi, Rajat. Great to see you again. So I'm seeing you brought a new wallpaper for us. So what is that today?
Same wallpaper, buddy. It's just changed the picture this time because, I think I have a feeling we're living through a tumultuous times at the moment. So I think this artist was drawing the picture. Um, I think it's from the North Sea, so
Yeah.
Baltic Sea, for my international friends, and North Sea, Nordsee from the for the German friends. And I thought it was quite good representing to the topic we want to talk about today as well, because you have
Oh,
all
yeah.
the waves and kind of crashing on the beaches and everything like that. So it's a good picture to have for today.
It's great. I like that. I really like that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So topic, what is the topic today? So last time we talked about the three most deadly mistakes a CMO should avoid when looking into AI, and we touched a couple of things. So today maybe we open up another can of worms. So we want to talk about ROI. So what is the return on invest if investing into AI projects? So and it is quite interesting
That
because of course
that
there's
that is a can of worms, by the way. You know that, and I know that because I think every CFO is asking for, what is the ROI on the invest we want to do, and yeah, I get it.
So, and the question is there, and it's a fair. It's not only. I mean, a lot of CFOs have probably nightmares and headaches about that, but also like reading. And I mean, we're all reading a lot. We're experimenting. We're doing that for our business, for our customers, and we're working with AI in some way or the other. But there's a lot of buzz all around. So the AI fan base is probably the loudest on social media at the moment out there. But when looking at real numbers, it's still there here and there. So there are some success cases. But when looking into some of the surveys, like Gartner recently said that only 5% of CMOs, for example, say they see any return on the marketing investment. Or McKinsey had a roundtable or an event where they asked 50 marketing leaders around the globe, and none of them could really articulate any benefit or any measurable return on AI investments. So, so,
Yeah.
so how do you see that? Is that more, is the success more hidden? Are people not yet focused so much on the numbers? Or what advice would you give?
I mean, this is one of the topics I think we discussed last time as well. So I think it's a good one to pick up because if you think about, what exactly is the ROI? I think if you ask different people, what is the ROI? I think you will get all sorts of different answers, right? I think one of the simplest answer, in the cash out world, for example, would be, well, yesterday I had so many number of people working on a task or so. Let's just say, for the argument's sake, yesterday there was 10 people working on a task, and tomorrow, AI plus, let's say we need only one or two people to do the same task or something like that, right? ROI kind of becomes easier to discuss in that kind of an area. I think the challenge we start running into is when we start talking about, for example, efficiency, right? So the first one, let's just say, for the sake of argumentation, let's call it effectiveness, right? So effectively,
Yeah.
how many more people do you have left, and so forth. So when you start talking about efficiency, I think that's kind of where it becomes a little bit, I would say, challenging to actually quantify. Now, you can say that yesterday, let's say it took the team or the person, I do not know, 40 hours a week to do certain tasks. But now, together with the AI, they're able to accomplish the same task in, I don't know, 3 hours or something like that, or 4 hours or so, because some prep work needs to be done, and perhaps the AI is still not able to do everything that needed to be done. So let's call it the cleanup work has to be done, and so forth, right? So technically, you can say, well, I've improved the efficiency, right? So instead of 40 hours, now we're only consuming, let's say, 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
So of
Yeah.
course you have the savings from that. But you're not able to demonstrate the savings as long as the person who was doing those 36 hours, of task, if that person is still there, from a CFO's perspective or the CEO's perspective, the headcount remains flat, right?
True.
And if the headcount is flat, the money that's leaving, still remains consistent. It's just now the person has more time on the hand. Now, if this person who is having more time on the hand is able to do another task, for example, which was not able to be done, which contributes either to the revenue or which contributes to further reduction of costs, or something in that direction, I think then you're able to argue that a little bit more easier. But just because of the fact that time on task reduction doesn't necessarily mean that you have actually achieved the savings, right?
Yeah.
And this is what a lot of the companies, at least the ones that I see, they struggle with this because, of course, they want to reduce, the costs and so forth, but the quantification of this efficiency that they have done, but the person doesn't get new tasks to do, or somehow that doesn't translate because the headcount still remains the same. And yesterday you were paying for 10 people, tomorrow you're paying for 10 people.
Yeah.
That doesn't add up, right?
Yeah. And
And I think we have seen examples of that time and time again, in
uh,
order to deal with this stuff.
that's a good topic. I like it. I noted down that you said, okay, only looking at efficiency is dangerous because it could be misleading, and I fully agree with that. And
Yeah,
also, I
it's
think
left
what,
pocket, right pocket, right? So
yeah,
in
exactly.
quintessence,
Yeah.
it's over there. And that also then, to a certain degree, if you want to now get away from the, let's call it the pure calculation topics, that from a management perspective, if you don't have the right leadership mindset, can result in let's call it resentment, maybe even, which is to say, well, I implemented, an AI for the team over here, and now instead of spending the time on doing something more or something more productive, or now the time is being spent for coffee breaks, as an example, right? So, you know, you can actually have an AI helping to increase the coffee breaks for the team, right?
That's a
But
great
all
metric.
kidding aside, I think that's the trap that the companies often fall into, and that's something that they have to think about, kind of going in that way.
Yeah. And I like what you said. I don't know if you said it intentionally, but you said then through the additional time they can do more or do more productive things. And I think there's a big difference because when looking at especially a lot of the social media stuff you see out there, where LinkedIn, and in a couple of minutes we'll also talk about LinkedIn and what they're doing, but it's spammed by people who obviously have more time for
Mhm.
whatever reason, but they're really inflating all the social media feeds with, I would say, AI slop, because people are doing more, they have more time, they can do more. More is being done with AI, but this is not more productive. It's a completely different thing, because
Yeah,
all of a sudden you need to really filter what you read and say, okay, where are the 5% that are interesting for me?
yeah,
So we need to make sure that, I think, people who are creating stuff, like especially in marketing, are not all of a sudden, instead of, I don't know, writing one article per week where they really thought about it like in the past. Well,
yeah.
hopefully they thought about it. Now they're sending, or they're writing like 10 articles, but they're complete nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, creating content for the sake of creating content, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, in the same note, if you can kind of come back and say, I mean, again, utilization of AI as an example is, of course, that you can create, I would say, generic content or something like that, right?
Mm.
And this is the topic that you're covering, Christian. If you think about, how and where this can lead to, you can also, I think, in Germany we have this word, what this is, the Gießkanne effect, right? So you can literally create, if for translating that in English, it's kind of like For when you are going out to water the plants, you just use one of those, things that's spreading the water all over the place
Uh,
without specifically targeting, where you actually need the water, right? But I think instead of just creating more content, we have seen. I mean, you and I were discussing about this, I think, earlier today. For example, the examples around Netflix or something like that, which is what is the next best action for that individual customer, right? And then you can do things a little bit more in a targeted manner, right? Which is that, of course, you're increasing the efficiency, but also on top of it, you're also increasing the effectiveness, right? So here you can then start to say, okay, I have a positive impact on revenue, as an example. And then, of course, your ROI becomes, yes, we were able to increase the revenue by this much, right? So ROI is not only about, to say, okay, I was able to decrease my cost, or I was able to improve the efficiency, therefore my effectiveness, for example, in our example here, what we're discussing goes in the revenue side, that gets better as well, right? And by the way, if the viewers have examples or if they have their own ideas or thoughts, please by all means leave your comment.
And it's a good point you mentioned there. You mentioned that now 2 or 3 times, which rightly so. That it's not only about like cost saving, like efficiency, cost saving, but about doing the right things and doing better things and improving the business. And what is quite interesting is when you look at the different industries and use cases, and of course on marketing, a lot of is produced with AI. Like developers, I know a couple of really senior expert developers, software programmers, who are actually not concerned about their job because the highly skilled ones are always needed, but they're saying they can produce much more because they're spending less time like reviewing every line of code and everything, so they can be their quality of work, not only the quantity, the quality increases.
But Christian, what I'm stating, and I think you got the nail on the head, right? But what I'm stating is on top of it, I think it's not only about how much more content you can create, but what is the impact of that, right? Is it now just to say, okay, yesterday I created 5 manuals, now I can create 10 manuals, therefore, my cost per manual goes down, right? So there it is, right? Or yesterday I was able to address X number of customers, and tomorrow I can address targeted, of course, Y number of customers, and that increase, as an example, is resulting in better revenue or things, things in that direction. So I think when you're doing this whole ROI stuff, right, you need to start thinking in a bit of I would say a different way, right? Cost side, effectiveness side, efficiency leading to effectiveness side, revenue side. So there's multitude of things that the business, let's call it the business finance owner of the CMO, they need to start thinking about and making things.
And that's a good point. And one great example, and that is quite interesting. I recently read a couple of research pieces about the different industries and how they're using good and bad examples and everything. And what was quite interesting is that the beauty and skincare industry is one of the most successful at the moment in terms of AI adoption. And they're doing exactly, or a couple of companies doing exactly what you said. They're not using the like watering everything, but they're addressing specific business problems or customer use cases. So, and there are a number of examples like L'Oreal, Estée Lauder, and a couple of more beauty companies. And the interesting thing is that one of the most successful scenarios of AI adoption at the moment is like try on of makeup. So I'm not personally very experienced in that, but this is where all those companies who are adopting like AI platforms where you can, if you want to have buy a skincare products, of course you can go to the shop and probably you'll buy it in the shop, but where they're closing the gap between offline and online, and you can basically try out different like makeup
or something
styles
like
and
that.
doing
Yeah.
that. And what was interesting is that from L'Oreal, they have something I needed to note it down. It's called Modiface. They have a
Yeah.
like a try-on AI platform, and that was used so far by more than 1 billion people. And the very
Wow.
interesting thing is that they're not only doing more and doing that, but all of those beauty companies are saying that their conversion rates, like from people looking at their products to buying, increased or multiplied by 3 to 4. And that is a true business impact. So
Yeah.
this fits exactly to what you said before, I think.
No, it's absolutely right, because whatever gives you better customer intimacy, and now suddenly think about it, the people who actually tried that stuff on, you're not going to have, overnight 1 million people visiting your store or something like that to try the stuff out, right? So here you're augmenting the process together with the AI. So this is, absolutely positive. But also now whom to target with your product, because they came into the store, virtual or not, right? They tried the stuff on. Sometimes, maybe they will leave a feedback if they did not make a purchase. What was the positive impact from that? And then, of course, here you suddenly have a positive ROI because your revenue is getting there, right? Is improving.
And you're getting a lot of data, like you said, because so many people in the beauty industry, they're making a selfie with their mobile phone. They're trying
Yeah.
on the like skincare products, and then of course, all of a sudden, the company has a huge database. They know things about their customers which they have never known before. So
Yeah.
that's quite a good one.
I'm
Going
gonna I'm
back
gonna
to
do a plug in for you. That's a topic we were discussing yesterday about lots of data. And actually, lots of data, having a lots of data makes nothing. But I think you're working on this project, which you're
yeah,
going to be launching soon, probably, around how to actually interpret that data into something
yeah,
meaningful, right? So not only
correct.
just say, okay, here's a chart on the graph, but what to watch out for and so forth out of the data, and what could work and stuff. So,
Yeah,
and I was really impressed to see that yesterday, the stuff that you're working on, and it's going to be
yeah.
coming out soon.
So we'll launch it maybe in one of the next sessions. We can talk about the details then.
To
We'll do
show it
that.
and stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
So
effectively, this turns from more from a podcast to a show and tell kind of
yeah, it
session
is.
or so. I think.
So
No,
so
people like to see this. That at least I like to see that kind of
yeah,
stuff, right? I mean, kind of a hands-on thing, or to do, or how do you make this happen, or something like that.
yeah,
Maybe it's a curiosity bit that kicks in, but at the same time, I think it's cool stuff, right? I mean, the AI has opened up so many different use cases which did not exist in the past,
yeah.
right? And another thing, by the way, shout out to my friend and colleague Afsar Khan, right? We were discussing about how do you translate this digital journey, right, in order to be doing the ROI cases and so forth. So what we have seen, and this is kind of where we do the guidance to the customers, when they start to do their digital journeys, because they're expecting the ROIs and so forth, right? Quite a lot of times we have seen the manual processes being copied into the digital world one for one, right? So it's like, okay, we did this in the Excel sheet yesterday, then the Excel sheet, we need to bring it into, I do not know, let's say zip file or something different. And then from there, it gets transported. From the transported part, it gets unzipped. And then from there, it gets, into the next phase, which
Yeah.
is then converting, I don't know, well, let's say using your tool to converting it into a meaningful data interpretation, right? What people need to start thinking about is, and this plays it directly into the ROI question. When you're going and implementing an AI, you really need to think about how do you convert, for example, the yesterday's standard process, the manual process, and whatever was being done. And now with the introduction of automation and with the introduction of AIs, what changes actually are needed now within the processes? Because if you're just copying from one to the other, of course, you will do things faster. Yesterday, manually, it took, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that. And now with the automation, it takes you 3 seconds and, you go, wow, fantastic. But if you really want to be able to optimize, this is my humble request to the audience is do relook at the processes that you're undertaking. One example of this one, by the way, Christian, is, AIs are able to handle dispersed data, right? And this is something I think we talked about in one of the earlier podcasts. And dispersed data means, you don't need to bring all the information in, right? You need to be able to tell the AI, okay, the information could be found here, here, and here, and collect the necessary information directly from there and then do something with it, right? Instead
Exactly.
of manually still bringing it in or loading it into the traditional Excel sheets and then transporting it because it's too big in a zip file and then unzipping and so forth, right? Because the processing happens somewhere else.
I like the example with the zip and unzip and everything. It's like, and this is where a lot of people need to be cautious of. Like if you produce rubbish and then with AI you produce the rubbish quicker, it is still rubbish. So maybe we can summarize like that.
I like that terminology. You can produce rubbish quicker.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe the new slogan, the new headline of I don't know who.
Maybe
Okay, no, that was
good,
great. That was great.
Good title for this podcast. Are you producing rubbish quicker?
Yeah.
With the AI. But I think that's
Okay,
your pet
great.
topic because you brought it up in the last one and the one before that and the one before that. I think this is the topic you were talking about constantly, about how people are producing rubbish quicker rather than focusing on improvements.
Well, that's at least that's a unique value statement.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Produce rubbish quicker with your AI.
Okay, great. No,
That's a good
thanks,
one.
Rajat, for the time as always today. So in summary, I think we can say that yes, there's not the one magic metric to measure the ROI of AI. But the important thing is you don't like try to just rush into technology just for the technology's sake and do the lemming effect and follow others, but look at specific problems like some of what you mentioned and also beauty industry and many more. Look at specific use cases, see how you can do better things, can do more, but of course it must be better, more productive, and then there could be a real ROI. But yeah, I think we'll touch on that and come back to that topic probably a couple of more times.
No, it's absolutely right, and I think just using this example of transposing the existing into the FMO, into the future mode of operation, right? Instead of just transposing that, you really need to be also thinking into the new models in terms of how this is actually working. And this leads into the topic for today, which is, how do I make sure that what I'm doing is actually fitting into the best capabilities out of the AI, and therefore resulting in a better, I would say, more calculable ROI for the
more calculated. I like that.
yeah, for the business partner owner or the finance partner owner or the CFO or so, because success breeds success, right? So effectively, they will see that you're bringing as a CMO success into the company, given revenue or improving efficiency, which is improving the effectiveness as well, and at the same time, managing and reducing the costs and actively working on that, right? And that then effectively you will get much more budgets in order to do more bolder projects and so forth, right? So, yeah.
Cool. And never forget human judgment, of course. We still need our brains, which is a good thing. Okay, great.
You have to use,
thank you
use
for
the human brains.
So thank you for the time. And I'm already looking forward to which wallpaper and picture you show us next time. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Christian. Have a good one. Bye-bye.